Guys, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of House Rules Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Alex Gatlin.
I'm your other host, Rachel LaForce.
And guys, for those of you who maybe are tuning in for the first time ever,
welcome.
Yeah, thanks for coming. We had a great guest last week, but we did get some feedback that, some of the folks tuning in had never seen or heard our podcast. So they were like, what is this show? I'm kind of confused. So we need to do a better job of kind of reintroducing ourselves to you guys in the show, even though you might be watching for the 100th time.
But what I just gotta say, I mean, listen, I'm all about always like feedback and understanding how to utilize it and all those things, right? Like I definitely am here for constructive criticism, but that's always my favorite when it's just like, yeah, we just like didn't know like what it was.
Well, I
like,
think
I know that was not the way that it was delivered, but like there is something super humbling about being like, yeah, I do this like for my life.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
it's because we've been doing this for a while, and we've had some great guests, some house guests, as we call them. But I guess the folks who tuned in to see our guest Guido, they didn't know. They're like, wait, are they interviewing you? Is it a conversation?
Well, yeah, and also totally valid point of what they were saying, right? Like, like most things, which a lot of people, maybe if you're not an artist, you wouldn't come into your thought, right? Which is kind of when you start something, it naturally evolves. And I don't feel like we really put a lot of parameters on what this was. Like there are some where it's like, it's a cooking podcast, but they're high. Or like it's moms, but they
For us,
they love to drink wine.
Well, to finish,
So most of them, right, there is a niche or a market or a gig, right? There's something that makes sense. We know what it is, right? Which is important. You and I sell projects. We know we have to know what it is in order to sell it.
Sure.
But with this, it really is a conversational podcasts from two comedians that are 2 months away from being married comedians.
Officially, 2 months from today. We will be married. Hopefully, I mean, the world is burning. But the plan
All right.
The plan is we actually, let's finish introducing this show, and then we'll get back to that. So look, this is House Rules Podcast. I'm Alex Gatlin.
I'm Rachel LaForce.
We do this every single Monday. We live stream it at 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern, right here on Facebook, YouTube. You can look up Skewed Orbit. That is our production company. All the info goes on there. And we're two comedians. We're engaged, as you heard. And, sometimes we have house guests. Other times we do fun segments. A lot of great stuff.
See, that's still murky. That still doesn't tell us what it is.
We got to work on it.
That's what I'm saying.
So what is this?
Well, to me, I think it's a conversational podcast covering. I think it's like a lifestyle conversational podcast.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's like the two most vague words. It's like getting a communications degree.
Sometimes we get into current events and politics. Other times we just do fun, silly segments. We have a lot of those today. And we bring on house guests. We have a really cool guest next week.
He's still selling it. Joey, can you feel that?
Well,
guys, Joey, our engineer, is here. Decked out in Chicago Bears gear, which I love.
Thank you, Joseph. Does anybody call you Joseph or just Joey? Just Joey. All right. No Joseph. All right. Okay.
No, I hear what you're saying. But I think on that note, which is we heard that feedback. And yeah, we're going to kind of listen. I am a wordsmith and self-promoted. And I think, we'll just sit down and kind of like hammer out. We're going to come up with like a really sexy log line for you guys. So we can come on and go, welcome to House Rules. This is a podcast where we blank, blank, blank. I'm Rachel LaForce.
I'm Alex Gatlin.
Let's get into it.
But anyway, it's a conversation podcast and it's fun. That's what we're leaving you with. Okay, so let's jump into...
No, I thought you were going to say 2 weeks or 2 months from today.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So,
you looked down like you had notes. I was like, you didn't have notes about this.
Well, my dad, Bob Gatlin, shout out. He wrote Bob and Arlene are watching.
Oh,
thank you, Dad.
Hi, guys.
Well, I just had a great chat via text with my dad earlier. So on the note of getting married in 2 months.
Yes, I'm still sharing this, by the way.
Yeah, go ahead, post away. I know it's important to get that out on Facebook. Anyway, so... we've gone through a lot of different changes in our plans for the wedding, for the honeymoon, because it's impossible nearly to plan anything right now, as you guys are probably well aware. So we settled on, we went from, our plan was for honeymoon was first to go to Bali, and then we're like, well, going abroad amidst all this is pretty difficult. Let's scratch that. Let's go to Hawaii. And then that was still kind of complicated because of quarantine and all that, and it's just too many variables. So now we've settled on our honeymoon is going to be a 10 to 14-day road trip through the American Southwest. You and I both love the outdoors. And there's a lot of parks that we have not been to that are beautiful that we're going to check out. So if you guys have any recommendations, by the way, I've gotten some great stuff. We're going to be hitting anywhere basically in southern Utah, New Mexico, Arizona, Marfa, Texas, because there's some Prada store there, apparently, that Rachel needs to check out or something.
Okay. First of all, you're allowed to talk shit, okay? But let's do it properly, okay? So Marfa, Texas is a very small arts. It's not like a commune, but the folks who live there, it's like you are dedicated to living in Marfa, Texas.
By the way, according to Wikipedia, it's 2,000 residents.
Right. So it's very, very small. And normally, in non-pandemic times, they have a lot of art festivals there.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will almost go there and do an artist in residency type thing.
Okay.
And so, but it's very, very hidden away. What put it on the map as far as Instagram is Prada very strategically did a Prada pop-up store. So if and most people now who are probably listening to this are like, oh yeah, that one where it's it's just the pop-up of Prada that's in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
And
I looked it up. It's
I love a good Instagram, and I'm not gonna back down from that.
We can go.
If I have the opportunity to go and take a photo there and be like, cool, I've seen it, I think that's cool.
I'm down to check it out. I mean,
I recognize that it's a long way to drive to say I took a picture of a pop-up store. I'm not a moron. I understand that. But also, I want to go. Yeah. It's my honeymoon. I don't get to go to Bali. I'm going to go to the
Hawaii.
Prada pop-up store.
But, we'll go to some cool... we're going in the Southwest because it's going to be November, so it'll be cold.
Right.
But, yeah, we'll be great. But if you guys know of any... Basically, we're just going to do kind of a loop. We're going to go up towards Zion in southern Utah, down to Marfa, Texas, back to L.A., so that kind of big circle. So if you know of any cool stuff that we should stop at in the Moab area or anything like that, let us know.
Especially very kitschy, side of the road, antique situations.
So Tracy can make if you guys don't know Tracy, that's Rachel's alter ego.
Or my highest self. Honestly, I go back and forth. I don't know which one.
What do you think Tracy's going to say about the Prada pop-up store?
Well, Tracy, that would be a thing that she'd go, yeah, y'all driving all the way out here to say a store y'all can't afford to walk into? But me, I would be like, Tracy, yeah, but it's really cool. She's like, no, it's really cool taking a bath and not having anybody knock on the door. Okay. That is cool.
Okay. Well, we'll have more Tracy content coming at you guys. So this is a segment we do that's really fun.
Wait, but you still missed the entire point, honey.
What
do we do today?
Oh, okay. So hold on. The recap. So we surprised my future father-in-law, Rachel's dad, Bert LaForce, for his birthday. We went camping out in Flagstaff with Bert and some friends of his and his wife. And then so on the way home, we stopped by the Airbnb that we're going to have our wedding at in Palm Desert. We didn't go in. Somebody was clearly there.
Well, it's on Airbnb, but it's a little bit nicer than an Airbnb.
It's a
not to totally show my mean girl, but
humble brag.
I'm just saying, it is it's a double villa, and there is a pool and a hot tub, and it's kind of an oasis situation. So,
what was that character you were doing? You've done it before, where it's that voice, like the girl who just travels abroad for a living.
Oh yeah, well probably just that voice.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, we drove past it. It was nice. We didn't go in, but we saw the outside, so we verified it's a real home.
It's real. It is there.
Most of you watching are not coming, but a few of you are, and thank you.
Well, some of you might be coming via Zoom. We have decided that we are going to Zoom the wedding, which, between saying that and going to this Prada pop-up store within a 30-minute time span, I don't know who I am. I don't know if I'm liking this new version of myself.
I think it's great.
No, I'm joking, but we did decide to do that, and I think that it was a smart thing because we're grateful for the folks that are going to be able to come and be with us, but it is a very, very small group. We went from a 200-person wedding to 25 people.
By the way, I already had one person who said, please update me about that Prada pop-up store. So.
Oh my gosh, of course.
Let me see who this, I'm trying to remember who.
Who is it?
I think it's sometimes when people, it's a woman. I think it's someone I went to high school with. Yeah, it is. Okay, because when people get married and their last names change.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's this woman, Lindsay, who graduated with me in high school. So hi, Lindsay.
Lindsay.
Thanks for watching. What's up? We will give you a full report on the Prada pop-up store.
I mean, on it, I feel like I'm going to be doing investigative journalism, going to Marfa. I'm going knowing the entire experience of Marfa, Texas might be underwhelming. But why I was it is important for me to go is I feel like, we're planning a family very soon. And it's I'm not going to drag my kids to Marfa, Texas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, which that was originally why we're like, let's go to Bali and like live our dreams and sleep in tree houses. And now we're like, well, we'll just,
But it's still going to be cool.
It'll be cool.
We're going to go to Antelope Canyon and all those cool places.
Yeah, I'm
we've
stoked.
never been.
I mean, again, and it's because it's also part of, I've been very blessed with traveling for work and doing comedy and stuff like that, that I've seen a lot of the U.S., but that region and then kind of like Montana, Wyoming, I haven't really spent any time in, which I know we're not doing that right this time because it's too cold.
That'll be our next one, up to like, Yellowstone and all that.
We'll do it.
But back on Rachel's point, if you guys want to watch our wedding via Zoom, we're working on it. We're going to set something up. So
yeah, we're going to have that. I think it's cool. People,
I don't think I want to post it like just on my Facebook. Like, I'm getting married. Here's the link.
No,
I want it to be a little bit more of like a personal
that's
invite.
where I was like, I don't know why you just open it up to everybody. Of like, hey, if you want to participate in the most important day of our life.
No, this is what I'm going to say. If somebody's listening or watching wants to DM us for the link, if you make that much of an effort, you get to watch the wedding. But I don't want to just post it in my story, like tune in for that. Feels weird.
Yeah, no, we're not. It's not like E Entertainment's not paying to like have our wedding on television.
Although there will be a drone getting above.
That's true. From our most recent house guest, Free the Dust.
Yeah. Follow at Free the Dust on Instagram. Okay, so can I jump into my first segment we have this week? Okay, so this segment, it's a classic. We're bringing it back. We haven't done it in a while. It's called Wellness or Whackness. Now, Rachel, for the listeners who don't know, you are a wellness advocate, I guess you could say.
I would say, listen, I accept a couple of titles. Wellness connoisseur, wellness woman, purveyor of said wellness.
Okay. I'll give you that.
Yep. I've actually never said anything.
So there's a lot of silly wellness trends on the internet, as we know. And so sometimes I find different items or services or wellness things, and we decide if it's an actual wellness service or good, or it's just whackness. It's ridiculous, right? So this is one I found. So, Joe, if you could pull up that first link I emailed you. And
I'm going to look this way, and then you tell me when to look.
Okay. I'll get it set up. Just give it a second here. But so...
I'm feeling really good that Lindsay's invested in my journey going to the Prada store.
Yeah. I do like how like live streaming this, I like get to like kind of reconnect with people I've lost touch with over the years,
The only other person I know IRL who has been is my friend Katie Conroy, who I know from Chicago.
Okay, so real quick. So here is the thing. Joe, can you make that full screen?
Oh gosh, what is this?
Okay.
Is this a whistle?
Yeah.
No.
So here, in fact, can you... So it says reduce anxiety.
No, I got to read this.
Okay.
Here we go. Kamamuso? Is that what it's called?
I think so.
Okay, here we go. Reduce anxiety. Meet the shift. A natural tool, which also meet the shift. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Meet the shift. A natural tool to help you improve breathing, deal with stress, and calm down.
All right.
There's a shift for her and a shift for him.
Of course, we got it.
I don't know.
So hold on, Joe. Can you scroll down a little bit? Okay. Now, can you
Most people don't breathe properly. Are you one of them? Shallow breathing may be the reason for your anxiety and panic attacks.
All right. So
what are you doing about it? That seems a little blaming. Can I just go and say that?
Yeah.
Hey, idiot. Do you have anxiety? Probably because you don't breathe right, idiot.
All right. Hold on. So this is a video here. Can you just click this video, Joey?
You want to be the best version of yourself. But when your mind is full of traffic about work, relationships, what's in the rear view, what's up ahead, it takes you away from the present moment and the people in it. And all the stress and anxiety affects your whole body, making your exhale shallow and triggering your sympathetic nervous system into a fight or flight response.
Okay.
You know, that OMG feeling. But what if you had a truly simple tool, no batteries, no apps, that could help you organically slow down and be a better you? The Shift is a first-of-its-kind simple meditation tool designed by a psychotherapist and modeled after a similar tool used by Kamuso monks of 17th century Japan. You see, they understood breathing could literally change your body and your mind.
Okay, I do agree with
We've
that.
all heard it before. If you're stressed, just take a deep breath.
Yep.
Thing is, the most important part of breathing is the exhale. And exhaling properly is really hard to do on your own, especially when you're stressed. But when you breathe with the Shift, its perfectly engineered size, length, and circumference elongate your exhale to an optimal 8 to 10 seconds, allowing your parasympathetic nervous system to reverse the physiological symptoms of stress and anxiety, so you can reroute your mind to a place of calm and be the best you. For yourself and the people around you, all it takes is a shift.
Okay, Rachel, first thoughts.
Wow, I'll tell you what, there was a really long video to go, hey, you could just breathe in and then breathe out for 10 seconds. That's all, like, that's the thing. Listen, I mean,
I know, how many gadgets do you need, you know?
But this is the thing that makes me crazy about wellness. And I understand that it's a $4 trillion, the last time I checked would have been November of 2019, but it was a $4 trillion. I understand people are looking at it and being like, people feel crazy, let's sell to them. But the number one reason
the
why
character voices, you got to start naming that. Like that's like your crazy old man sales.
Well, yes, no, hello, hi. Well, sometimes it goes back and forth because then sometimes it can actually become the witch. Do you see?
No, but that was more like a boardroom, like
Yeah. This guy, and I just imagine that he's like super small. You know what I mean?
like the Monopoly man, and
yeah,
he's like,
a little bit. Yeah, like kind of looks like a peanut. You know, but like a boiled one.
How much do you think that costs?
I am so frightened if it's over $40.
Joey, can you scroll up and click on either one of those shop for him or her links?
Also, why are they different? Not like being like taking a stance on gender, but $105
for a piece of metal that you blow into to help you breathe.
But here, see, and that's why it makes me so angry because it's like I could understand if you had like, so I know that this happens a lot for people, and we actually talked about this with our buddy Armando. This happened to a cousin of mine where kids, when they start to figure out basically that they're mortal, right? Some kids start to have panic attacks thinking that they could die. This is I'm not like making jokes, it's very real, right? Yeah. So I could see if I had like a 10-year-old who's really, really struggling with this, of like, this is a tool I would get them, of being like, okay, when you start to feel that way, this is what we're going to do, okay? So you have this thing. But I feel like for the average adult who's just dealing with a lot of stress, I don't know, like me, that's my biggest thing of why even like this idea of wellness or whackness, where I'm like, y'all, stop paying people crazy amounts of money to learn how to breathe. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't know. I could go on and on.
So we agree it's whackness.
100%.
So by the way, for the folks who are just listening.
Also, because all you have to do, let me tell you, let me give you $105 worth of free information, okay? All you got to do is watch that video that they made for 1 minute and 34 seconds, and then it'll tell you exactly what you need to do, okay? It just said, breathe in, and then exhale for 8 to 10 seconds.
But two things before I forget. So for the folks who were just listening, so the video of this episode is always living on Skewed Orbit, Facebook and YouTube pages. But if you're just listening and you want to Google this item, it's called Komuso Design. So if you just type in KOMUSO design.com, it'll come up if you just were curious what the item is. Joey, can you just real quick go back and click on shop for her? I'm curious like what the if there's any.
Well, I think that one looks like it's gunmetal.
Oh, the her? Yeah. Oh.
And then what's the shop for him? Is it camo?
Could you imagine?
Yeah, it's slate black.
Okay, so it's just. Oh, the males is cheaper. 85. See, the patriarchy is still winning.
Wait,
why is
that cannot be real?
Wait, what's the difference? The males is 85 and the females is 105.
Stop.
Is there wait, hold on. Can you see any difference? I don't think there's any difference.
Wait, mess with the settings. So it says like slate shift and then original chain. On the other one, did we just have it? Okay.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, there we go.
We solved it.
Whoa.
So what's the price?
I almost blacked out.
So what's the price increase for?
For the change, so one is slate, and I guess one is like silver.
Okay. All right. Well, it's a silly item, but, you know. By the way, my dad said for a great wellness documentary on Netflix, watch Heal. Have you seen that one?
No. Tell them, or I guess I can. Hi, Bob. You guys, watch the series Unwell. I'm telling everybody to watch that. It's super interesting. So it just takes like wellness concepts like essential oils and ayahuasca and these things that like are kind of quasi in the middle of like, are they like healing or are they not?
I love that kind of stuff.
Basically the same as anything of like anybody can commandeer it and make it anything they want, i.e. like breathing.
I know. It's just sort of like, but here's my thing though, if someone having that device, it does help them breathe better. I don't think you need that. You could use a straw, but you know, if you want to have your little whistle device to. I
mean, I don't know. There are times that I feel like my head's going to fall off. I mean, maybe I should invest in one, but it's just the concept. That's the thing that makes me like, I'm always like, there's some quote, and I don't know what it is, but it's something like, you are your own guru or something like that, where it's like we are all of the time searching outside of ourselves. Even all of these people on Instagram that are like, I'm a wellness advocate and I am, and charging people for like, I have this course or this course or this course. And like, there's one thing if it's like, hey, here are things I've learned and I want to share them with you. Yeah. Like that I'm totally here for. That's what most of my work is. Like all I can tell you are the things that I know, right? And what I've experienced. But when people start trying to like sell you something,
that's what sketches me out.
Of like how to like invest and find in yourself, it's like that's when I'm like, nope, no.
Well, especially, two notes. So one, before I forget, so our friend Lindsay who was watching earlier, so she did recommend, by the way, going to do this trip before you have a kid. She just had a baby boy. She's like, I just had a baby boy. I highly recommend going now instead of when, hopefully we are parents or pregnant or both. But to this,
did you just hear that sigh? I'm like so mentally prepared as much as you can be. I mean, I have no idea what it's going to be like. Like that's like the other day when you said to me, I think like literally yesterday, it's how long the weekend's been. And you're like, oh, thinking about you pregnant with a 3-year-old. And like we were both instantly exhausted just like thinking about it. Like I was like,
but this is the main difference, right? Is we are at the age where a lot of our friends have had kids on purpose. You know what I'm saying? Like there's an age where you have friends who have kids and it usually wasn't planned.
Yeah, where you're like, is it? And then they're like, no, yay. And you're like, oh, yay.
But now it's like we're in our 30s. Like everybody we know who has kids, they either were like working on it for a while or it just happened. But like, it's great. Yeah.
Well, listen, it's just, in all jokes aside, it's just a different season of life. And I think right now we're doing everything we can, right, to like get literally all of our ducks in order as best we can so that whatever, as our priorities change, et cetera, because, we've chosen to bring a human into the world. Yeah.
The other thing for me, we're in the similar.
It's kind of like a really like cocky thing we do.
What?
Right? Just being like, just bringing humans into the world.
Have you ever heard Tom Segura's bit about that?
No.
I'm going to butcher it, but it's on one of his recent specials. It's really, really funny.
Okay.
But he's talking about how arrogant it is to have a child. It's like, you want to have a little thing that looks exactly like you?
Yeah.
And just does what you tell. It's really funny.
Yeah. But just like, or even just where it's like, I think about how much work it takes for me to have like a good, like a solid mental health week. You know what I mean? And I feel like I'm pretty balanced, you know? But to be like, that was a pretty good week. And I'm like, and now I just want to be like, hey, kid, do you want to inherit all of my generational trauma?
Yeah. Well, I know for me, the thing is like all of the things that I really enjoyed doing as a young man, I've definitely like outgrown them. Like being a dad is like, oh, that's going to be a fun new thing, which is what you want mentally, right?
That's
like,
how I feel about Christmas.
What do you mean?
Like, as a kid,
you've outgrown Christmas?
So hear me out.
Okay.
So as a kid, I feel like, and I know you didn't celebrate Christmas, and maybe there's a holiday that felt like this for you, but like as a kid, it is the most magical time of the year, legitimately.
Right.
Like everything feels magical, right?
I get it.
Yeah, Joey's nodding. And
Hanukkah was just like, it's cool, but it's not the same effect as Christmas is for you guys.
Well, certainly. And now knowing more about Hanukkah and kind of knowing like where on the importance scale in a way of like the type of holiday it is too, right? And so, but I feel like, and for me, maybe it was like I was an only child, and so the holidays is when I got to go and be with all of my family.
Sure.
So there was kind of this additional like, admittedly where my family was like, Rachel's in town, so I wonder why I think I am special. So, but there was something very magical about that. And then I feel like as I got older, and then I would still go to see all of my family, and then people started getting married and then having kids. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Everybody's not like stoked I'm here, and we're not all piling in the car to go like do something fun together. I'm like, you guys are just like, I'm just here now,
Now Christmas in LA is just adults drinking because they're sad.
Yeah, and I don't even drink.
Yeah, I know.
So I'm just sad. And there's no snow.
Well, Hanukkah was so different for me because I didn't grow up with any Jewish friends, really. I mean, I as a kid, I went to a Hebrew school and I knew kids there. But where I grew up in Virginia, it was very rare to have Jewish folks around. And when you're little, you don't really understand like, oh, this Christmas is what most people in this country do because they're Christian, and Hanukkah is like what like. It was more always when I'm really young. It was like, that's weird that like everybody does this thing that I'm not really a part of. And I'm like allowed to like enjoy it kind of, but like that's not, a 7-year-old can't really process that.
Sure.
So I always felt kind of like, I mean, listen, my parents did lots of fun stuff with us.
They still do lots of fun stuff with us.
Yeah, totally. But and I mean, when you're a kid, getting a present is like the greatest thing on earth.
Right.
But it was always peculiar for me for all of the Jewish holidays that
did you feel like the buy-in then for like, did you believe in Santa? Like,
No,
what is that? No, I know, but like Christians, like Santa doesn't have anything to do with Jesus.
Right.
Like, I'm just wondering, like, what is the buy-in for a kid who's Jewish?
Oh, I knew from day one, presents came from mom and dad.
Okay,
they got
so
full
you
credit.
for sure were looking at all of these, like Gentiles, right? In a way of being like idiots. All these people thinking they have to be good in order to get gifts.
Probably. I don't remember
I just imagine you as 7, like with a cigar, being
well, I'm so contrarian anyway.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, I'm surprised you didn't ruin, like, I imagine you being the kid on the playground being like, yeah, Santa's not real, right?
But you know how I know that people can be duped into anything? There was, and like, even if you've convinced yourself.
Because people will buy the shift?
No, but even like if you convince yourself, oh, well, I understand like facts and logic, so, but like this thing must be true also, like there's a way you can jumble it. There was a significant portion of my young life when I thought that, like, oh, idiots, Santa Claus, that's for mom and dad. I believed that and knew that, and still at the same time thought that the tooth fairy really flew into my window, took my teeth, and left me money. Like, my brain.
Well, that sounds a lot like both the left and the right now.
I know,
that
right?
sense of hypocrisy, right? Where they're like, well, I can believe this thing. I'm also going to believe this thing. They are completely contrarian, but that's okay.
Yeah, I feel like Santa would for sure be on the left. He's like burning, just giving away stuff. Like, hey, free toys.
So funny.
Tooth fairy for sure. Like right-leaning, like business-minded, like I'm going to take these teeth, I'm going to give you a little bit of money, I'm going to harvest them, I'm going to flip them for a profit. Listen, you gave up the teeth, kid, all right? You could have saved them. You didn't want them. I paid you a fair deal.
That is so funny.
Right? You agree?
That is so funny. 100%. That's what I'm saying. It's so funny.
Yeah.
That's when I actually think something's really funny, when I no longer am laughing, but I'm just acknowledging it over and over. And that's the worst thing, like when I would go and watch like stand up or anything, even like in an open mic or something, and somebody says something really funny, and then I just repeat their joke back, and I'm like, I have to stop doing that.
Well, we look at comedy very differently, obviously, because we do it professionally. We were reminiscing in the car today how much we miss stand up.
I haven't missed it yet. 6 months in, so I don't know what that says, but 6 months in, and it was like listening to that podcast today and like hearing their bits and how much fun they were having, and all of a sudden I was like, wow. I mean, it's also like we've been focused on like building a production company and setting up that platform in order so that we can go and do stand up again at night or whatever it turns into, right? But anyway. So anyway, that is going back to the children. That is why I am excited because, and I know we're still figuring out like how are we going to like introduce holidays for our kids and like what part, right?
I know my parents are watching. They're going to do both. Don't worry. Plenty of Hanukkah stuff.
Oh, yeah. Are you kidding? That's like the most exciting thing of like being able to share.
Listen, kid, you want double presents? Well, you're going to do 2 holidays.
I mean, for real. But how exciting for our kids of like, okay, like we went, and we were with like Grandma Susie or, Grandpa Bert and Grandma Lori, and we did Christmas stuff. And now we get to go to Grandma and Grandpa Gatlin. So we're going to do Hanukkah stuff. Oh, our kids are going to be so spoiled.
I know. It's great. Okay. I had another wellness or whackness, but I'm going to save it because I want to jump into our next segment we haven't done in a while.
That was a good one.
Yeah, I'm glad. So we agree. Whackness on
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, if you got it from me, I wouldn't be like upset or something. But
you're not getting that. Don't worry.
Well,
so this segment is called "Should We Buy This for Our House?" It's just like it sounds. I find items on the internet and then I present them to Rachel, and we decide if we should buy them for our house. So Joey, I'm just going to do the second link on that section. Yeah, just do that one. This is an item that I found it's a little expensive, but I think it may be the perfect item for you. I think if there's anything that you would absolutely love to have, it's this. What are you doing?
I was looking to see. I'm wanting to wait. I don't want to see.
It's ready when you are. What are you looking at?
I'm looking at the live stream.
Oh, okay. You're checking the I'm checking the comments too.
Was trying to do something so I don't spoil the thing.
Okay. All right.
All right, but I see it up on the screen now. Okay. What is this? The world's first living furniture line.
So, Joe, can you scroll down a little bit?
How cool.
Yeah. So
Bringing the outdoors indoors. Sleek, waterproof, minimalistic.
So these are called blooming tables.
The world's first terrarium table that will shine in your home or office. How cool. Wow. Not as expensive as I would have thought. Now, does it come prepared, or is it like building a terrarium where you put it together yourself?
I'm glad you asked. Joey, can you scroll up real quick? I think there's an FAQ or...
View our collection. Blooming tables. I would actually put that on our registry.
That's why I found it. Okay, so it's not there. But anyway, so guys, look up blooming tables if you're just listening. Go to About Us. Go to How It Works. Click on How It Works. Here we go. So Rachel, play this video. Blooming tables. So fancy, right? So it's just succulents under a piece of glass.
Ooh, this is pretty good, like, stock music.
I know, right? So yeah, you just put it together, screw in the legs. Seems pretty easy to assemble. I never really looked at succulents before I met you, but now I like understand. They're quite nice. They don't take a lot of maintenance either. So it looks like So for anybody listening only, we're watching a video here, and it's kind of showing you how it's designed. So it looks like there's some sort of drainage situation, so you can have the water come out. And then you put those in, so that's how you prop up the glass. And yeah, it's like a little entryway table, and you just put the, necessary pieces underneath.
Oh, so it doesn't actually come with the plants. You can decide what you put in it?
Yes.
Oh.
So then you put the soil in there, right? Get it all situated.
I really like this song.
Yeah, I'll have to find out whose stock music this is.
I really like this song.
I feel like you would do a video. It's like, hey y'all, welcome back to The Force Awakens. We're gonna get you well and cast a spell or something.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just trying here. I'm doing it on the fly. But this is nice, right?
I really want one.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome. So there you go. I found something that we could use for the house, and there you can drain out the excess water in the bottom.
That's really cool.
So I think it's perfect. Like you put it under a window, or
That's really cool.
So guys, again, it's Blooming Tables. If you want to check it out. By the way, Blooming Tables, if you want to send us one, we will do a full review. If you want to, that is my goal with this podcast.
Oh my gosh. They're
a little pricey, but not crazy. It's like $200.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like people spend $200 on less.
It's a specialty item.
Well, and it's something you have to also consider that glass that sits there on top is actually pretty expensive,
right,
to have a piece of glass like that. So between that and the drainage, I understand why it costs.
I'm assuming you want a white. I think they have white and black.
Yeah, I almost actually want. Well, we don't have a house yet. I was going to say I want two. So if you had the entryway, and then you could put 1 and 2, and then you could. But yeah,
pretty cool.
I'll start with 1. Listen to me. I'm already I'd like 2. Yeah, I'll start with 1. White, please.
Okay,
I'm putting that in the universe. We're going to get that.
So
I think that is so cool.
Good. Well, you're welcome. I'm glad that you liked it.
All right, blooming tables. I'm into it.
Yeah.
Also, blooming tails like that too.
Bloomingdale's?
Yeah.
The
Just 'cause
store?
It sounded like blooming tables.
Blooming
Let's move on.
I was a little bit. Okay, all right. Well, that's should we buy this for our house? I think this week it was a success of that item. I'm very happy about it. All right, this is a new segment called Wasted.
Okay.
And this is...
Is it just when you go through my old Facebook and find pictures of me hammered?
Almost. No,
Okay.
it's...
Be a funny segment.
I'm on the internet a lot. Probably too much, almost to a fault.
Okay.
But I
You heard
find
it here
interesting
first.
stuff. And this one is something when I found something it's what a waste, man. What a waste of money to do this thing. So, Joey, if you can click on that link for us and pull it up when you're ready. This is something I found that you could...
Is this just the link where you bought all of those knockoff charger cords that don't work?
Almost. No, okay, now look at this. Read it.
Established titles become... Stop! become a lord or lady today.
Yeah.
Scottish lordship and ladyship title packs.
So yeah,
You could just buy that.
a
I could be Lady LaForce.
Yes.
This is not wasted. This is a game changer. If I could legitimately pay money, you're telling me right now, and I could start introducing myself as Lady LaForce, you think I'm not going to do that?
Please don't. It's so douchey.
Lady LaForce, please, introducing Lady LaForce
and
Lord Gatlin. I mean, I'm sorry. That's amazing.
Okay, so it's establishedtitles.com if you want to check it out. Can you scroll down for us? All right, so yeah.
It's not like buying somebody a star where it's like, cool. What am I going to look at it?
You want to read this for us?
Of course I do. The stock footage, though, on these, it's a little off-brand. Okay. Hard for me to say.
Can you zoom it in a little bit?
It's all good. I got it. Okay. Purchase a personal lordship or ladyship title pack with dedicated... Is that what that says? Dedicated land in Scotland. Our title packs are based in historic Scottish land ownership. I don't know. What does this mean? Is it saying that, like, you're basically buying land?
You have to own a piece of land in order to be called lord or lady. So I think you can buy like 1 square mile.
Sorry, how expensive are these?
Or like.
So I can, not only am I now Lady LaForce, but I can say I own a square mile
or not
in
a square.
Scotland?
No, it's like a square. It's a very small amount of land. Not a square mile. That was too much. Scroll down. It's on this website somewhere where you can find out how much it is.
Hold on. Okay. There's a couple pack.
Ooh, click on the couple pack. Let's see what that gets.
Well, he already said he didn't want to be a lord and was making
well, you know, I'm thinking.
Proclamation, Lord, Lady.
Okay, so it's $90, and you own 2.5 square feet, or no, 2 square feet, not 2.5. My eyes are not great. So 2 square feet of some piece of land. Right?
Why are we not doing this?
You want to spend $90 on this?
To be able to, when you get like every time, you know, and like going, like you're doing on Delta or something and it's suffix, and then I could put lady.
Okay, hold on.
So when I'm talking with Delta because they messed up my flight or something, and they're like, I'm sorry, is this Miss LaForce? And I go, they'll say, I'm sorry, is this Lady LaForce?
So I'm going to poll the listeners. Do you think it's worth $90 to own basically a square foot of land in Scotland and then be called Lord or Lady? I say it's a waste. You want to put this in the registry?
Joey, you can't hear.
You guys...
Joey just goes, ooh.
So wait, hold on, Joey. What do you like it? You think it's worth it?
I mean, why not? You know?
He said, "Why not?" Yeah, okay.
Oh my, Joey, that just made my week. Ooh.
Lord...
I mean, I'm sorry. I wish that we could. Oh my gosh! I know that there's only going to be a small amount of people at our wedding, all of whom would say this is an absolutely ridiculous purchase if I know them well enough. But the thought of, normally like after you're married and then you go take your pictures and then normally you're like walking to some big hall and they're like, please welcome for the first time, Mr. and Mrs. Alex Gatlin, right? But this time they can say, please welcome Lord Gatlin and Lady LaForce.
So my buddy Ricky, shout out to Ricky, he's got his own podcast show, Ricky Rants. Yeah, he says, yes, I am Scottish, so I might be biased. So he says, yes, go for it. Listen, hey, if you guys think it's worth it, maybe we'll do it. I always thought if a world where I introduce myself as Lord Gatlin and not do it as a joke, like.
Well, I mean, let's be very clear. This is 100% a joke.
No, I know, but like.
It would be the most money I've spent to date on a bit, for sure.
I guess, yeah, it's,
But it's not a ton of money.
Listen, it's not a ton of money, but it's still a bit preposterous.
I mean, being able to frame that proclamation that Lord Gatlin and Lady LaForce and have that framed in our house, that is so funny.
You know what we got to do? Then we got to go to Scotland and visit our square foot of land.
But that's what I was going to say. I want to do that because, well, I was supposed to be going to Fringe Fest there, but,
in Edinburgh.
Sometime soon in Edinburgh.
One day. That's what we'll do. We'll go to Edinburgh, and then we'll jet on over to wherever the hell
also
this is.
like Lady LaForce just sounds cool. And I'm still, on my vision board now, watch out. I do want to have a line of CBD at some point, and now I'm just going to name it Lady LaForce. There's no other name for it.
Yeah.
Joey's nodding.
Yeah.
He's decked out in Bears gear. He's ready to go.
All right, well, that's
Lady
all.
LaForce CBD.
That's all I got for segments this week.
Oh, that was it?
Yeah.
No Rachel Learns the News?
All the news is shitty.
We also did spend 2.5 hours in the car, just straight.
Well,
halfway through, I was like, we should have just went live and talked about all this.
Well, there's a lot of the news going on, but it was all like fires and it was just bummer. The only story I found...
Well, mostly it's like nothing new is really what it is.
Right. It was just the same stuff. It's boring. It's like, oh, Bezos has more money and California's still on fire. It's like, oh, I got it. The one thing I did find... my dad says we'd also need a crest and a flag. Hey, listen, you know what? If anybody's a designer and wants to help us put one together, what would be on our family crest?
That's really funny that you asked me that because...
I feel like a pair of mics crossed, like an X of two microphones,
oh
definitely.
My God, that is so funny. Well, I was genuinely thinking about this because with all the kind of fun alternative things that we're doing. So feel free, this is one. On the day of our wedding, I'm getting like a really, really big, kind of like almost like wall size canvas. And then we'll have all these different color paints out. And then throughout the day, people can go and add and paint on this like abstract canvas. And then at the end of the day, it's like, that's the painting that we all created together, right? Very hippie, very Lady LaForce. See, it sounds great. But that's like something fun that we're going to do, right? An interactive thing. It's like an engagement. It's very fun. And so I was like, gosh, it'd be fun if like on our invitation or like on our menu, if we had like our own family crest or something like that.
But what else would be on the crest?
Well,
okay.
I hadn't gotten there yet because I had literally I was like, that would be kind of cool, and was trying to brainstorm how I would like incorporate that into the day or something. Okay, what else would be on there?
Well, for you, it would be like the moon or some kind of astrology thing, right?
Maybe more the moon. I'm not a huge like. I just want to be like clear because I feel like I enjoy all modalities of wellness and things like that. And astrology and the phases of the moon is certainly something that I like to keep my eye on. It helps kind of frame time and the seasons for me, but it's not like. Where I'm like, oh, he's a Cancer. Yeah. Well, I'm not going to work with him.
I'm getting, I have to pull this close because my eyes aren't great, but Ricky just sent me emojis of a microphone and then the theater masks of like happy and sad.
Yep.
Headphones, the slate thing you use when you like start a scene, one of those wooden paint things that you hold. And then the last one, oh, it's flowers. A thing of flowers.
Yep.
And then Trudy... Our loyal viewer, Trudy. Thank you, Trudy. She just wrote, oh, well, Pelosi's hair was in the news.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
You know what I did read? Okay, so I won't get political, but I did see one story, and I was like, God, how could this be a thing? So I forget where this was. I think it was in San Francisco, but somewhere where the gyms are still closed, it came out that in government buildings, those gyms are open.
Shocker.
For government employees.
Yeah.
Which is just like, dude, come on, man. Like, you're going to, like that, Anyway, I'll save it for my solo podcast.
But that's the same as like, things like, Kim Kardashian being like, stay home and wear a mask, but it's her like on a yacht. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, sometimes the like tone deafness of folks in our society is just like beyond me.
Well, I did find one news story that was funny, and I didn't do it. I guess we could pull it up because everything else was. There's a couple websites to go to that like curate like wacky news.
Right.
And there was one that I forget it was a zoo in England, and there's a parrot that can like sing "If I Were a Boy" by Beyonce. And
stop. That's really funny.
Joey.
Well,
what were we going to say?
I want to talk about the freelance thing.
Okay, so
speaking of lady and lordship.
Oh, so you learned what freelance means. So tell the listeners. I already knew this, but you were
most
very
everyone
to share.
Probably knows. Like in the same way when I learned, I didn't learn, but when I realized New Mexico is named New Mexico because it's literally the New Mexico, or the same with like New England, New Hampshire.
No, my favorite was when you were like, you heard somebody like some folks now use the word herstory. And you were like, herstory? Why would somebody call it herstory? And I was like, well, history is just literally his story. So they're trying to make it like gender inclusive. And then you're like, oh my God, that's where history comes from. And I was like, yeah, it's like his story. And you were like at 34, I learned, like your mind was like melting learning this for the first time.
Things like that happen to me all of the time. And I feel like I'm pretty smart.
Oh, you're very intelligent.
There's a lot of times that things like something like that, and I'm like, what? Like just the things that skate by you,
I'm all for using more gender inclusive language
we talked about that today.
Yeah, for the most part. Like, it's not that big of a deal. To me, some people fight it. To me, it's not a big deal to try and use words like humankind, mail carrier, firefighter. Like, I don't mind. But if I use the word...
What's the gender...
Fireman versus firefighter.
Oh, got it.
Instead of making it male or right,
Yeah,
we talked about actor versus actress. Like I just say actor. I have no issue with that. But herstory is a not convenient word to say. Some people use the word shero, like if it's a female hero.
Right.
That's fine. But like also if I want to say hero, you can't get mad at me, right? It's like that's the common word. No?
Yeah, no, I was just thinking about what I want to say because, in light of like anything you say can and will be held against you. I always go where I'm like, I don't think that those are the things that suddenly everyone's going to go, you're right. It is a patriarchal society and we've been doing it all wrong. Like that's my only thing where it's like, if you're wanting to champion these things so that we're continuing this conversation, I said that in the car, right? Where it was like when Band-Aid and the beginning of the resurgence of Black Lives Matter back in June. And then Band-Aid at some point was like, we have Band-Aids in every shade, but then there were still only like 4 shades, but it was like more than just like tan, right? So they had like black and brown and whatever. So it's like, we stand with you. And it's like, I don't think, like, I appreciate what they're wanting to do, right? But it was like
sell Band-Aids is what they're trying to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't think like that's where it's like, well, we've cured racism. That's it.
Could you imagine though if that's what did it, right?
That's funny.
Like if the products that we have access to being completely inclusive, if that cured all the ailments of society,
we're like that's it. But I think
capitalism did it, guys.
But I think that those things are important because it continues this conversation, certainly. But it's like, how, I mean, we talk all about that of like, how do you continue these conversations and have them in a way that allows for nuance and allows for conversation. But those conversations and those things have to be happening in our homes. And the only problem is like, what we bumped up a lot against this weekend with conversations with folks whose experiences are vastly different than ours, right? Of living in Hollywood and what we do. So our exposure is much different. And it was always like, which is a very valid thing, which a lot of people are like, I want to live my life. I want to do what I want to do. Kind of like we're really hearing that people feel like they're being told, if you're not with us, like you're against us, right? So then those folks that don't even necessarily like I, agree with on some things and don't agree on other things, they're not even, or maybe they are. This isn't fair. I don't know. They're at home conversations, right? But then we're losing a lot of the conversation, which is about nuance of like, okay, so how did we get here? Interesting that we're here now. How do we get here? How do we talk about these things?
That's exactly how we got here. The media pivoting or splitting everybody against each other, and then the overindulgence of stimulation through social media.
Well, I was going to go, why? I know that you know how we got here because I live with you. You know what I mean?
We've talked about it at length.
I know. Well,
I think, honestly, the mainstream legacy media has done more damage to this country than almost any single politician.
I would agree with that 100%. Because it is, but that's the other thing that doesn't make sense to me is it's like this idea where it's like, well, I heard it here, so that means it's fact. And it's like, anyway, I feel like that's going to be exhausting to go into all
I know
that.
we've talked about this at length.
I didn't even get to tell everybody what freelance means.
Oh my God. So we don't have a ton of time left. Let's do the freelance anecdote and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
So it's literally just from back in medieval times when there was somebody that was a lance and not for a specific kingdom, right?
So a lance is like a knight, like a soldier.
Right. And so if they did not have allegiance to a certain, kingdom, then it was literally like a free agent, right?
Yeah.
So they would just if you paid them, then they would go and they'd fight anybody. And I was like, I don't know where, but then it was like, oh, I didn't even think about like what it could possibly mean. I was just like, yep, that's what I do, and I'm tired. You know what I mean? Like I never even like thought about
because we are freelancers.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we don't really have allegiance to anybody.
No.
But ourselves.
That's true.
Politically, definitely not.
Nope.
I mean, we align
with our integrity.
You haven't taken the political test. There's a political test I took online. I think it's politicalcompass.org. I think is the website. And
yeah, that sounds secure.
What?
I'm just
You're just trying to be contrarian?
I guess. I don't know. It's the first thing that came to my mind.
Well, I got exactly what I predicted was a centrist libertarian is what it pinned me as. And I want you to take it. I'm curious what yours would be.
I mean, it probably more. Is there anything on there that's like humanitarian? Because that's definitely how I feel now. Like when people are like, when anybody starts talking about politics right now, because it gets so divided so quickly. And like, I always start, if I'm choosing to join the conversation, by saying, well, I'm looking at it from a humanitarian standpoint, because policies change, politics change. So in, 2 years from now, when we've all moved on from whatever, this is right now, or 4 years, 6 years, whatever, like there's still going to be things that divide us. We're only going to be exposed to all of the things we're exposed to now, faster, longer, more high paced, more readily available, which is that even possible? But of course it is. Right. So that's what that's the way I approach the world.
I agree with you on that to the extent of, I've kind of decided, like, politics, especially like mainstream politics, is so exhausting. Like, I've struggled trying to really truly make sense of understanding, like, what is a good way to do healthcare in this country, and like, how are we supposed to tax the rich? Like, it's so, for me, those things, as for most folks, when you get into the weeds, it's so complicated and nuanced. At this point, if I look at a politician, all I really care about is, like, do they seem like a genuine, honest, good person who will fight for what they believe in? That's why I like Bernie, for example. About half of Bernie's platform I really am opposed to. But he seems like a guy who, when he speaks, I don't think he's giving me bullshit.
Well, and he's for sure not. He's not going to tell you one thing and do something else.
Right.
Like that I 100% believe. And
Biden, Pence, Trump, and Kamala all are absolute liars and will say whatever they have to.
But I think Trump had that same appeal to people that Bernie did, where, like, I don't believe that, like, I still genuinely believe that Trump cannot, like, if everybody, the people that are still like, I cannot believe that Trump is president, I feel like he's still the one that's like, I can't believe I'm here. You know what I mean? Like, I think there is a part of him, there is some part of him in some place that, like, he's too narcissistic to have any other thought other than, like, of course I'm here, I'm the best at what I do, like, whatever. I almost started doing Bernie, but you know what I mean? But I think there is a part of him that's like, I can't believe I'm still here.
Maybe. I think, I don't know.
I don't think he actually ran for president thinking he was going to become president.
It's hard to know. It's hard to know.
Yeah. But anyway, the point being that I think that rawness of I say whatever I want resonated with people and made them believe that that is who he is, without acknowledging, like, oh, he's been like a millionaire and like cheated and done, like, like his business practices are all over the world. He's literally the opposite of the hero that you're looking for in regards to, like, I say whatever I want and do whatever I want. Like, that's not true. But regardless, that feeling very, very much has captivated people, and that's non-negotiable. And so I think that was similar of what Bernie was able to tap into multiple times.
By the way, Ricky predicts you'll probably come up as a libertarian socialist.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. That's probably true.
Well, and I don't know. I know those are two very different philosophies in a sense, but I'm in the middle. The thing is, for me, with all of these...
Thank you, Ricky, by the way. I love that he was like, I got it. This is what she is.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, this is the one thing that you and I both have seen quite a bit, because we come from very different types of backgrounds, and like the folks who grew up with their political leanings. But it really seems like across the board, we were talking about this over the weekend, everyone distrusts less in big business, mainstream media, politicians. All three of those, we've just been lied to so much. And I think that was part of Trump's appeal, and why a lot of young people liked Bernie, like, to your point, is at least they're being now, I know authentic for Trump is kind of a catch-22, but at least in that sort of sense. And that's
projection.
And that was, for me, one of the most disheartening things, how the Democrats ended up with Biden, is like, oh, like, we have been screaming, like, and I know that there were different splits of like who wanted this person and that person, but like, especially like younger people, like 40 and under, who are like motivated. We just want someone that we can believe in. Even for me, right? Like, I am not a socialist. I believe in the free market most of the time. I would have gladly voted for Bernie because at least I could look to that man and say, you know what? Certain things, I don't agree with your platform, but you are a fighter and you have integrity. And we've like lost all of that in our political system.
Yeah, it's really sad. I mean, the thing that the only reason why I was like, do we have something else other than Bernie? The only reason I felt that way, the only reason that I thought that was simply because he was so for a better world that I knew we weren't going to see it. That was my only thing of like, I don't want this guy to be going up against, like, trying to change all of these things when like there's no way it's going to happen because there's too many people making money off of these institutions. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing where it's like, in the same way of like, okay, like basically, so, okay, stay with me of like, when I know I'm getting to the point where I'm like, ooh, I have a lot of stress right now, or I'm like working through something that's really painful. So I now know that my space to play is like smaller than when I'm like feeling really good, feeling very positive. My space to play is much bigger. So if I'm like, okay, this week I know I'm under a lot of duress. I've got a lot going on in my brain. I'm really irritable, right? And I know, okay, this is not a great week for me. Like, I'm going to plan out strategically, what can I do so I can still do it at the best of my ability? And that's what I really was looking for, somebody who's a candidate of like, okay, so I know these things I can keep promoting and going after and chipping away at that block. But I also know that like I live in America and like shit, that's just not going to happen, So how can I work within the system to change the system or reflect it the best way I can for 4 to 8 years?
Yeah.
And that's the way I think we should look at it.
Well, on the other point, Ricky pointed out, by the way, when I keep mentioning these comments, just so you guys know, if you're listening, whatever, we live stream this every Monday at 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern. So you can tune in every week. We love when you guys comment with us, participate. It's really fun. So just follow Skewed Orbit on Facebook if you want to get in the conversation. But Ricky pointed out, I forgot this, that it's kind of well known. Trump originally ran as a publicity stunt to launch his own media company, which is what he's probably going to do anyway when he's out of office, whether it's this time or in 4 years. Yeah. But anyway, I don't want to talk about Trump too much. But just to your point with all that kind of stuff, and this is not my original thought. I've heard someone a historian much smarter than me said this on a podcast. But if you reflect back on like the iconic presidents we remember through history, like Lincoln, JFK, I'm trying to think.
Yep, there was only two.
No. I'm trying to think who else. But my FDR, they're the most. Yeah, they're remembered for like Lincoln and FDR. They got us through wars, and there were policies they pushed through. But the biggest things is they united the country. Yes. They were orators who inspired people to come together, and we don't have any of that. All it is now is divisiveness.
Well, that's what was interesting when we were listening to Rogan's podcast on the way home today, and it was the episode with Whitney Cummings and Annie Letterman, and one of them said, I don't remember who, that the difference between 9/11 and everything that was going on and how scared everybody was and what was changing versus what's going on now is at 9/11 there was a sense of we're all in this together, that we're all Americans. There was a real sense of patriotism that took over. Of like, I mean, there was also a lot of politics as well, but I think that was more of the narrative of like, we are all Americans. And then it quickly changed because it was like, why are we in Iraq now? But, that's a different story.
Well,
but just meaning like versus now where it is of like, the entire, and I think that there's a part because I've had to find separation for myself from it because I have gotten so honestly sad. Just really sad by all of it. While there's all these people in the media yelling and screaming back and forth, there are people that are losing everything they have, and people who were just maybe even starting to get by are losing everything they have. And meanwhile, the media is like, "Yep, but let's just keep yelling at each other." And so that
because
makes
they make money off that.
I know, but I'm just saying that, like, regardless of why it is or how it is, and I understand that I live in a very complex society, it still makes me incredibly sad because what we triumph and what we say of like, even with a slogan of like, make America great again, like it's like you didn't do any of that. Like, look at all of these people, so it just makes me really sad. And so trying to find this distance, which is, what are the ways that I can start entering into conversations with people when things like this come up of being like, well, what would you really want? What do you really value? And kind of like investing in the person specifically and finding those things out, because those are waters I can navigate.
Wait, is that a question you'd ask to the theoretical president, or you're asking like just citizens in general?
No, I'm just saying like when, like when you're with people who view differently than you, or like I feel like now things can get so heated so quickly because we have this alliance of if somebody says that they support Trump, then it's like, they're terrible, right? And then there's also some people that like if you are like left, like just if they're not on your team, right? Then like they're awful. And so, and some people are hateful and awful, certainly, and some people are,
I think most I think that's a much smaller percentage of Americans.
But that's what I'm saying, which I'm getting to, which is I'm finding now that I have to ask people questions specifically about them, of like, well, what is important to you? What do you want to see? What affects you? What are you finding? How is this affecting you? And because then it's also asking people inadvertently of like, you're also kind of asking them to think about why they think the way they do, rather than like, it's like blue team, red team, right? Like you're genuinely wanting to start a dialogue with people, but also at the same time, to be perfectly honest, it's like I've just kind of taken a break because I'm like, I'm so exhausted by the whole thing that, it's like.
I think that's why you got to pick like one or two core issues to you and vote based on that. That's why, like for me, I've said many times, I'm voting Libertarian. I know they're not going to win. It's not about that. I'm just trying to like throw support into that platform, because one of the biggest issues for me is Libertarians are 100% against the war on drugs. They would end it as soon as they got into office. And for me, that's an important issue. And whether you're on the side, if you're a very big anti-drug use person, that's great. Drugs are not good for you. And if you've done any research, you know that over the 50 years that we've been fighting this war, drug use has declined by literally zero. And if you're
but it's also, while they're doing that, they're also pumping out and giving more money to big pharma, who's just like killing an onslaught of people. More so it's like, and that's only my biggest thing, again, which goes back into this idea of hypocrisy.
But I'm just pointing out that like if you're on the one side that's like we're wasting too much money and all, it's like $50 billion a year is what they estimate. So there's that. And then if you're on the more humanitarian side, well, poor people, especially minorities, are hurt more than anybody by this war. So just for me, it's like, there's so much going on in this election that's like feels like too hard to comprehend, but that's one issue that I know I can cling to, and like I want to keep raising awareness about it, because no one is talking about it in this election at all, and I think it gets thrown by the wayside and we forget about it.
Because COVID now is like it's a political platform. I mean, for true politicians, in many ways, like what is it, like never let a good crisis go to waste. It's like this is the perfect time to be running, because it's like, you can divide people so quickly. And so I don't know. I mean, it's also where I go back to like wanting to ask people, it's like, what are your gifts? What are you good at? How can you give back? How can you enrich your community? How can you, because it's like all of these things right now feel so massive, and they are affecting, millions of people. And also at the same time, which is what you always remind me, which I don't like, but it's very true, which is the world is cruel. And that is the way it is. It is not fair. It's never going to be fair. And, it's like there are people who are real activists fighting on behalf of other people and really wanting better. And slowly but surely we are getting there. But like humankind is not designed, like I believe from like a spiritual point of view of like this world is not, whatever this realm is not set up to be fair. And so we can learn hard lessons and experience life is painful. And so what is it, rather than being like, this is the biggest election ever or this or that? And it's like, yeah, there's a lot on the line for people, but also we thought that in the 60s too, and we made it through that. We thought that in the 40s. We thought that, it's like any time in history where like everything was dire and we didn't know how we were going to make it through. Right. We're going to make it through. And 10 years from now, we're all going to be looking back, through our like things that are in our head, being like, oh, remember that? Like when I say things in our head, I mean whatever the thing is Elon Musk wants to.
I know we got to wrap up soon, but that's like on the podcast we listened to today, they pointed out of all the people who've ever died in human history, like over 25% died from malaria, right? And that's the thing we have.
Well, also to be fair, they were questioning if that stat is accurate.
No. My point is...
But yes, I hear what you're
saying. My only real point is like, one of our... a friend who lives down the hall from us, she and I were joking, and I was talking about how like you and I want to have kids soon, and she's like, you really want to bring a kid into this world? I mean, I feel like there's so much awfulness. And I was like, people used to die of dysentery. Like, that's when you have diarrhea to the point where you, like, poop yourself to death. So, and that doesn't happen anymore. So, like, yeah.
I'm so glad that he gave us that full, right, Joey? That was nice.
I'm just saying, like, yeah, to your point, it's important to be aware of what's going on in the world. But remember, it's what you see on Twitter or YouTube or Facebook or whatever. It's a glimpse into the actual reality of the world.
Well, I think it's that. And I also think it's like, if you're really that angry and give a shit, then like, why don't you go and like find the places that you can put your money or where you can actually donate and help people? Because I feel like it's what I'm seeing. It's mostly a lot of people in positions of privilege that are sitting around arguing with each other, and I'm in that boat. I mean, I'm speaking to myself, but I'm finding it's like it's also just like a lot of people that are in positions of privilege that are like arguing back and forth, and it's like, okay, if you really have this much outrage, why don't you go and like find the organizations that are in your, area? Or how can you, if you can't financially donate, can you give time? Like all of these different things.
That. So like with your flower business, you gave a quarter of your profit to from last week. What was the organization?
Reach for the Top. They put shout out, follow them on Instagram at Reach for the Top LA. They help get people that are kind of like on the fringe back into housing. They provide sober housing for certain folks.
It's great.
They women and kids that are transitioning out of like battered home situations, things like that. And they're doing really great work.
And to me, it's like, and we'll leave it on this, but like you take that $50 billion a year we're wasting on the war on drugs and you put it into affordable housing, food shortages, and basic universal health care for everybody in this country. Come on, man. Like, you can't tell me that's not a better use of that money.
Well, and tapping on that, which is the more emphasis, if you find that you're putting into a person or an institution of being like, this is what it is, of whether that's like for Trump or Biden or, whatever, whoever the person is, Kanye. Remember that? That was fun.
He's still running.
I can't, we're wrapping up. But is also remembering of like, is there a way that you can transmute or transform that energy and put it into a place that like is actually needed? Because Trump doesn't need your support. Biden doesn't need your support. It's like, who really needs the support are like the people out there that are really disenfranchised, the folks that are trying to figure it out, the organizations that you care about. It's like, those are the people that really need your energy.
Isn't there a phrase like it's like dream big, but work small? Is that?
Probably. That sounds beautiful.
Yeah. It's like, the dream of the big picture, but work on a local level to make it better.
Yeah.
Anyway,
you know who I think said that? Lady LaForce.
All right, guys. On that note, we're going to wrap it up here. So next week, we have a house guest joining us. Really cool house guest. Her name is Marilyn Vance, and she is the costume designer from some films you might have heard of, like Pretty Woman, Pretty in Pink, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, The Breakfast Club, Predator 1 and 2, Die Hard 1 and 2, 48 Hours, The Untouchables. We Are Not Worthy. And I am so excited to ask her all sorts of questions. So she is here with us next week, live in the room. Yeah, right? She's here. I got to reconfirm with her manager, but it should be here. So yeah, if not next week, she is. So, and if something happens, she's a busy lady. So if she's not here next week, she will be on the pod. Yeah, most likely. If you're curious, just hop on IMDb or Google, type in Marilyn Vance. And she has her own podcast that I've been kind of helping them with the production of, called Designing Hollywood. Kind of cool if you're into costume design and all that great stuff. But that'll be next week. And we have a bunch of other cool house guests we're bringing in. We've got some really cool people in different fields of expertise. But as always, I'm Alex Gatlin. I'm Rachel LaForce. You can watch us live right here and comment like our friends did today. Bob Gatlin, Ricky Dunlop, Trudy. I always forget Trudy's last name. I'm sorry. Ward. Thank you. Trudy Ward. Our Lindsay Michelle, my dear friend from high school. What's her new last name? I know she got married. Malilo? I don't know. I'm sorry. Anyway, my point is... I don't know why you tried that when you just gave up and failed. Or, very Lord-like. So you can watch us live every Monday, 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern, right here on Facebook at Skewed Orbit page, also Skewed Orbit YouTube. You can listen to us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, all that great stuff. We've got a lot of new stuff that we're going to be rolling out over the next couple of weeks through Skewed Orbit, so we're excited to share all of that with you. So again, as always, I know it seems
like, you know, to you guys, it's like, oh yeah, they've got it. And we do, we're crushing it. But every time that you either reshare, let somebody know, tell a friend, tell an enemy, we will take their listenership as well. That is major. Also with this idea of, you know, trying to figure out how do we want to frame our podcast. If you're listening to it and you're like, this is what it is, and they don't even know, let us know. Your thoughts are always important and we appreciate it.
Yeah, and if you follow the Skewed Orbit page on Facebook or at House Rules Pod on Instagram, you guys probably know we put fun clips up there, little segments of the show. So again, to Rachel's point, we love doing the show and it always helps. So if you see anything that you think is funny, whatever, if you just even once share it on your social media platforms, every little bit just helps us grow the show, get the word out. It really, 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 honestly, like that is the biggest favor you could do for us. It's just
takes a village.
Once in a while, when you see something you like that we put out, just share it. Be like, oh, I love this podcast.
Also, I don't have time to go into it, but the fact about the algorithm. So even with us sharing things, it doesn't matter. But the more people that are sharing your content, then you bump up in the algorithm. So it actually does make a massive difference.
Rachel and I have been spending copious time studying how, like, all these different platforms have algorithms and stuff, but like we said, the more you share, the more you care. The more you care. There you go. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Thank you again.
Bye.
Bye.